Okay, so you know that feeling you get, right? You know when you've like managed to squeeze everything you need into that perfectly sized carry-on bag?
Yeah.
You feel like a Tetris champion,
Uh-huh.
walking past baggage drop, feeling so smug.
Yes.
It's like a superpower avoiding those check bag fees.
Yep.
But what if I told you this game is about to change?
Oh, it is changing.
Is it really?
It is. We have some pretty compelling evidence
Okay.
that those carry-on dimensions that we've all come to memorize
Right.
might be shrinking.
Oh, no.
And soon.
Seriously. Okay, so this is why we're doing this deep dive. We're going to get ahead of this.
Yes.
We're going to unpack a recent article
Uh-huh.
from ASUSA
Right.
all about American Airlines and their carry-on policy.
Yeah, it focuses on changes coming by 2025.
Okay.
And they are big.
Okay.
But to understand where we're going, helpful to look at where we are now.
Okay, so where are we now?
Currently, American Airlines allows a personal item, like a backpack or a purse,
Right.
plus a separate carry-on bag.
Yeah, that always feels, on the surface,
Yes.
pretty generous. You
Right.
know, it's like, oh, wow, I get 2 bags.
Yes, until you get to the gate.
Yeah.
And everybody is shoving overstuffed bags into the overhead bins.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Everyone's fighting for that space.
Exactly, and that's where the fine print comes in.
The fine print.
So American Airlines,
Yeah.
they have specific size limits.
Okay, lay it on me.
18 by 14 by 8 inches for the personal item,
Got it.
and then 22 by 14 by 9 inches
Okay.
for the carry-on.
Of a carry-on. Okay.
And remember, that includes wheels and handles.
So they give you the 2 bag allowance, and then they like really control the size so tightly.
They do.
You're like begging for a tape measure at check-in.
It's a bit of a psychological game, isn't it?
I think so.
The airlines want to appear generous
Mm-hmm.
while also, managing the very limited space they have on board,
Okay.
which leads to that,
Yes.
barely made it feeling where your bag just squeezes through,
Yeah.
at the gate.
Exactly.
I've definitely had those moments, where you're like, oh, is it going to fit?
Yeah.
But the article mentions that enforcement of these size rules can vary, right?
Yeah, it does.
Like some airports are stricter than others?
Yeah, that's a key point.
Okay.
The article highlights Miami International Airport
Oh, okay.
as being particularly stringent.
Interesting.
They even have anecdotes
Oh, really?
about constant gateside confrontations because passengers' bags
Yeah.
are just a tiny bit over the limit.
They hate that.
Imagine the stress.
I know.
Yeah, right?
Talk about like a vacation buzzkill,
Yeah.
but it makes you wonder why certain airports are cracking down harder than others.
Is it just random?
No, it's not random at all.
Or is there something else going on?
Yeah, that's where the concept of capacity challenges comes in.
Capacity challenges.
So essentially airports
Yeah.
and airlines are dealing with more passengers than ever,
Makes sense.
especially with the post-pandemic travel surge.
Right. Yeah, everyone wants to get out there now.
Yeah, planes are full.
Yeah.
Overhead bins are overflowing.
Right.
And it's creating logistical nightmares.
Yeah, I can imagine. So stricter enforcement, at least in some places, could be a way to manage that chaos.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think about it this way. If everyone is bringing the absolute maximum size carry-on allowed,
Right.
it becomes physically impossible to fit them all on the plane.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's not even factoring in accessibility for passengers with disabilities or other needs.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a complex puzzle
It is. It is.
that airports are trying to solve.
Okay, so we've got capacity challenges.
Right.
We've got inconsistent enforcement
Uh-huh.
of existing size limits.
Yeah.
And then the article hits us with the real shocker.
Yeah.
Starting in 2025,
Okay.
American Airlines wants to align its carry-on policy with stricter international standards.
Right, and this is where things get really interesting and potentially stressful for travelers who are used to
Yeah.
the current American Airlines rules.
Right.
This shift could mean
Yeah.
significantly smaller size allowances
No.
for both your personal item
Okay.
and your carry-on bag.
Not only do we need to be aware of the current dimensions, but we also need to start thinking about how these upcoming international standards might change our packing game.
Exactly.
That fairly.
The article doesn't give specific dimensions for these new standards.
Oh, really?
So it's
Wow.
like this looming question mark
Like a big question mark.
hanging over our perfectly
hanging over all of us.
Packed suitcases.
So we're all in the dark.
Yeah. But one thing is clear.
What's that?
Change is coming.
Okay.
And it's probably going to require us to be even more strategic and mindful about what we bring on board.
Yeah, I have to admit, part of me is thinking, oh, great, here comes another way for airlines to, squeeze more money out of us.
I can see why you think that.
Yeah.
It does make you wonder if this is less about standardization.
Yeah.
And more about nudging people towards those lucrative checked bag fees.
Right, because if your carry-on is suddenly too small, what choice do you have but to pay to check it?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And the article does touch on the financial incentives for airlines.
Right.
Checked bag fees are a huge revenue stream.
Yeah.
And smaller carry-on allowances could definitely boost those profits.
So we've got this potential shrinking of our carry-on space.
Yeah.
And maybe it's for operational reasons. Maybe it's for profit. Maybe it's a bit of both.
Right.
But there's another layer to this, right?
Yes, there is.
It's not just about the size of the bag anymore.
Right.
It's also about what you're allowed to put in that bag.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
The list of prohibited items for carry-ons is constantly evolving.
Okay.
And the article gives some pretty surprising examples.
Yeah, I was surprised to see certain types of lithium batteries, large drones, and even pepper spray being banned by the TSA.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the safety concerns.
Right.
But it's a lot to keep track of.
It definitely is.
I agree.
And the article emphasizes the importance of staying updated on these restrictions.
Okay.
You can face hefty fines or even legal trouble if you're caught with something that's now prohibited.
I had no idea it was that serious.
Yeah, it's not something to take lightly.
Okay, so major takeaways so far. 1, the size of our carry-on bags might be shrinking. And 2, the list of things we can't pack in them is growing.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to process. Easy to feel overwhelmed.
I understand. But I think the key takeaway here is to be proactive.
Okay.
Don't wait until you're at the airport, frantically trying to cram everything into a bag that's suddenly too small, or facing questions about a prohibited item.
So what can our listeners do right now to prepare for these potential changes?
Well,
should we all be running out to buy new, smaller suitcases?
That might be premature.
Okay.
But it's not a bad idea to start thinking about it.
Okay.
So pull out your current carry-on and personal item and actually measure them.
I like it.
Compare those measurements to the current American Airlines dimensions.
Got it.
Are you already pushing the limits?
Okay.
If so, it might be wise to start browsing for replacements.
Okay.
Especially if you travel frequently.
That's a great practical tip.
Yeah.
It's better to be prepared than to get caught off guard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the airport. But what about this ever-growing list of prohibited items? How can we possibly stay on top of all those changes?
Well, the good news is there are resources to help.
Okay.
The TSA and FAA websites are your best friends here.
Got it.
Make it a habit to check their prohibited items lists regularly.
Regularly.
You can even sign up for email alerts so you're notified of any updates.
Okay, I'm feeling slightly less panicked now. So we've got a plan. Measure our bags, check the TSA and FAA websites, and maybe start practicing some extreme packing techniques. But there's still that nagging question of why these changes are happening and who they really benefit.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's a conversation we need to keep having.
Okay.
It's important to be aware of the potential motivations at play here.
Okay, so listeners, as we move into the next part of our deep dive, we're going to delve deeper into those motivations.
Okay.
We'll explore the financial incentives for airlines, the potential impact on passenger experience, and what you can do to advocate for your own travel needs in this evolving landscape.
Stay tuned.
All right, stay tuned.
Things are about to get even more interesting.
Okay.
It's a bit like a detective novel, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We've got these clues, shrinking bag sizes, growing lists of restrictions.
Right.
And we're trying to piece together the motive.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And like any good mystery, there could be multiple layers to the answer.
Exactly.
So let's start with the potential benefits of these changes, at least from the airline's perspective.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay, I'm ready.
What if airlines are genuinely motivated
by
a desire to standardize carry-on policies and improve efficiency. Could that actually lead to a better travel experience?
For everyone. For everyone.
Okay, I'm willing to entertain that possibility.
Okay.
But I'm going to need some convincing.
Fair enough. Think about it this way.
Okay.
Consistent carry-on policies
Yeah.
across airlines and airports could theoretically reduce delays.
Okay.
No more waiting for that one person who's trying to cram an oversized duffel bag into an already full overhead bin.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see how that would streamline the boarding process.
Exactly.
And fewer delays would make everyone happy, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And from a safety perspective, having clear guidelines on what's allowed in the cabin could also help prevent potential hazards.
Okay.
Remember, those restrictions on lithium batteries and other items aren't arbitrary.
Right.
They're there for a reason.
Safety first.
Okay, I'm starting to see the upside.
Okay.
But I still can't shake this feeling that airlines are also seeing dollar signs here. Checked bag fees are a significant source of revenue for them.
They are.
And if they can nudge more people into checking their bags by shrinking carry-on allowances, well, it seems like a win-win for them.
Right.
But maybe not for us.
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And it's part of a larger trend we're seeing in the airline industry.
What's that?
The unbundling of services.
Okay.
And the rise of ancillary fees.
Ancillary fees.
So what used to be included in the price of a ticket, things like checked bags, seat selection, even meals, are now often extra.
It's like they're nickel and diming us at every turn.
It can feel that way for sure.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about transparency and fairness.
Right.
Are passengers being adequately informed about these fees?
Good question.
Do they have a real choice? Or are they being forced into paying more?
Yeah.
These are complex issues that deserve further scrutiny.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up transparency. The article does mention that American Airlines will provide plenty of notice before implementing these changes.
Okay.
But will that notice be enough?
That's a good question.
For people to adjust?
Yeah.
Especially for those who travel infrequently and might not be as attuned to these policy shifts.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Even with ample notice, there's always a risk that some travelers will be caught off guard.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of proactive preparation.
Proactive preparation.
Don't wait for the airline to tell you your bag is no longer compliant.
Yeah.
Take the initiative to stay informed.
Okay.
And make any necessary adjustments ahead of time.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got these potential carry-on size reductions coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
Possibly driven by a combination of legitimate operational concerns and good old-fashioned profit-seeking. And we know we need to be proactive in checking our bag sizes and staying informed about prohibited items. But where do we go from here?
That's where things get really interesting. It's not just about passively accepting these changes. It's about becoming informed consumers. And advocating for our own best interests.
I like that. So how do we do that?
Well, first and foremost, knowledge is power. The more you understand about these policies and the motivations behind them, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions.
Okay, so we're not just stuck with whatever one airline decides. There might actually be some competition out there.
There is.
That could work in our favor.
Absolutely. And as we talked about earlier, passenger feedback matters. Airlines are paying attention to what people are saying on social media and review platforms.
Interesting.
So don't be shy about sharing your experiences, both positive and negative.
Got it.
If you encounter unfair fees or frustrating policies, speak up.
So it's not just about grumbling to ourselves at the airport.
No.
It's about using our voices to drive change.
Precisely. And remember, you have choices as a consumer. If one airline's policies are consistently frustrating you, consider exploring alternatives. Vote with your wallet.
I liked that.
And support airlines that align with your values and travel needs.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a bit more empowered. But I have to ask, do you really think individual passengers can make a difference?
Yes, I do.
Really?
I mean, airlines are huge corporations.
Yeah.
It often feels like we're just cogs in the machine.
I know.
Right.
Totally.
It's easy to feel that way. But I truly believe that collective action can create meaningful change.
Okay.
Think about it. If enough passengers start demanding more transparency, fairer pricing, and reasonable carry-on policies, airlines will be forced to listen.
That's a hopeful thought.
Yeah.
It's like we're all part of this giant travel ecosystem.
Exactly.
And we have the power to influence it.
Right. And as we've seen with other industries, consumer pressure can lead to real change.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. So don't underestimate your power as a traveler.
Got it.
Stay informed. Make your voice heard.
Oh, okay.
And let's work together to create a more passenger-friendly future of air travel.
I love that it's like we're all in this together.
We all
trying to navigate this ever-changing world of air travel.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, we can make it a little bit better along the way.
I think so.
But before we get too carried away with our newfound passenger power,
right,
there's another piece of this puzzle we haven't fully explored.
What's that?
The prohibited items list.
Right.
We know it's growing.
Yeah.
But why?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the size restrictions.
Yeah.
But what we're allowed to pack is just as important.
Okay.
If not more so from a safety and security standpoint.
Okay, so examples from the article. Lithium batteries, drones, pepper spray.
Right.
But what's the overarching logic here?
It's all about risk assessment and mitigation.
Risk assessment and mitigation.
So the TSA and FAA are constantly evaluating potential threats and adjusting their policies accordingly.
Okay.
And remember, these restrictions aren't just about preventing intentional harm.
Yeah.
They're also about preventing accidents.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it still feels a bit overwhelming. To try to keep up with all these changes, is there a way to think about these prohibited items in a more organized way?
Absolutely. One way to approach it is to think in categories.
Categories, okay.
For example, one major category is electronics.
Electronics.
This includes things like laptops, tablets, phones, and of course those infamous lithium batteries.
So what's the deal with lithium batteries?
Yeah.
Why are they such a big concern?
Lithium batteries are incredibly powerful for their size.
Okay.
And they're used in a wide range of devices.
Right.
But they can also be volatile.
Okay.
If they're damaged or improperly handled.
Got it.
There have been instances of lithium batteries overheating and catching fire.
Oh, wow.
Which is a serious safety hazard.
Yeah.
Especially on an airplane.
That makes sense. So it's not about banning all lithium batteries.
No.
It's about regulating certain types.
Right.
And making sure they're transported safely.
Exactly. And the regulations can get quite specific.
Okay.
For example, there are restrictions on the size and wattage of lithium batteries allowed in carry-ons.
Got it.
And there are also rules about how they must be packed, typically in your carry-on.
Right.
Not checked luggage.
Okay.
And ideally in a protective case.
It's a lot to remember.
It is.
And I imagine the rules for other electronic devices can be equally complex.
They can be. And it's not just about batteries.
Okay.
There are also restrictions on devices that can interfere with aircraft's navigation systems.
Okay.
Like certain types of drones.
Interesting.
Or powerful transmitters.
So we've got electronics covered.
Okay.
What other categories of prohibited items should travelers be aware of?
Another big one is liquids and gels.
Oh, yeah, the liquids and gels?
Remember the 311 rule?
The 311? Oh, the one that's caused
yes.
countless travel-sized toiletries to be confiscated at security checkpoints.
Exactly. It's still in effect. And it's important to understand the specifics. Each container of liquid or gel must be 3.4 ounces or less.
Okay.
And they all need to fit into a single quart-sized clear plastic bag.
Like a science experiment trying to fit everything into that tiny bag.
Yeah, but it's better to be safe than sorry.
I guess so.
Yeah. And the restrictions on liquids and gels are again tied to risk assessment.
Okay.
Certain substances could potentially be used to create explosives or other harmful concoctions.
Got it.
So there's a need to regulate what's brought on board.
So we've got electronics and liquids and gels.
Right.
What other categories are there?
Well, the list goes on.
Okay.
Sharp objects are another big one.
Sharp objects?
Things like knives, scissors, even tools that could be used as weapons.
Okay.
There are also restrictions on flammable items.
Flammable items.
Like lighter fluid or certain types of aerosols.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about those.
Yeah.
It really highlights how much goes into keeping air travel safe.
It does. And it's important to remember that the TSA and FAA are constantly adapting their policies based on new threats and emerging technologies. What might be allowed today could be banned tomorrow.
So vigilance is key.
Exactly.
We can't just assume we know the rules. We need to stay informed.
Yeah. And the good news is there are resources available to help. The TSA and FAA websites are constantly updated. And they even have helpful FAQs and visual guides to make it easier to understand the restrictions.
Okay, so we've talked about size restrictions. We talked about prohibited items. We've talked about the importance of being informed and proactive. But there's one question that keeps nagging at me. Will these changes actually lead to smoother travel experiences, right?
Or will they primarily benefit airline profits?
That's a valid question.
Yeah, it's a cynical view. I know, but it's hard to ignore the financial incentives.
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
And it's one that doesn't have a simple answer.
Okay.
I think it's likely a combination of factors.
Okay.
Airlines are businesses.
Right.
And they're always looking for ways to increase revenue and streamline operations. But at the same time, there are legitimate reasons for standardizing carry-on policies and ensuring the safety and efficiency of air travel.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
And as passengers, we're caught in the middle.
Exactly.
It's our job to stay informed, adapt to these changes, and advocate for our own best interests.
Exactly. And that's where knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
The more you understand about these policies and the motivations behind them, the better equipped you'll be
to make informed decisions.
Got it.
And navigate the complexities of air travel.
This has been incredibly insightful.
Oh, good.
I feel much more prepared.
I'm glad.
To navigate the ever-changing world of carry-on luggage.
Good.
But before we wrap up, there's one question I keep coming back to.
Okay.
You mentioned the potential benefits of standardization and efficiency.
Right.
But is that really what's driving these changes? Or are airlines primarily motivated by profit?
It's a valid question.
Yeah, it's a cynical view, I know.
Yeah.
But it's hard to ignore the financial incentives at play here.
It's a fair question.
Yeah.
And it's one that doesn't have a simple answer.
Oh, okay.
I think it's likely a combination of factors.
Okay.
Airlines are businesses.
Right.
And they're always looking for ways to increase revenue and streamline operations.
Right.
But at the same time, there are legitimate reasons for standardizing carry-on policies and ensuring the safety and efficiency of air travel.
So it's a balancing act.
It is.
And as passengers, we're caught in the middle.
Exactly.
It's our job to stay informed, adapt to these changes, and advocate for our own best interests.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's where knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
The more you understand about these policies and the motivations behind them, the better equipped you'll be.
Okay.
To make informed decisions.
Got it.
And navigate the complexities of air travel.
Well said. This has been a fascinating deep dive.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
And I feel like I've learned so much.
Good.
But before we let our listeners go, I want to leave them with something to ponder.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the practical implications of these carry-on changes. But what about the bigger picture?
Yeah, what about?
What do these trends tell us about the future of air travel? Are we heading towards a world where everything is an extra fee, where personal space and convenience are increasingly commodified? Or is there hope for a future where passenger experience is prioritized alongside airline profits?
It's a good question.
It's a question worth exploring further.
It is.
And I encourage you to continue the conversation, maybe even do some research on other airlines' policies and compare them to American Airlines. Let us know what you discover. Yeah, it's like a question that really makes you think about, you know, where the airline industry is headed and what it means for us, like the passenger. It's easy to get a little pessimistic thinking about, you know, shrinking bags and extra fees and all of that.
I understand that perspective.
Yeah.
But I actually, I think there's room for optimism in all of this.
Really? Okay, tell me more. What makes you optimistic about the future of air travel?
Well, one thing that gives me hope is that passengers are becoming more aware of these trends and more vocal about their rights. We're not just, passively accepting whatever airlines throw at us anymore.
That's true. I've definitely noticed more people sharing their, travel experiences and bad online. It's like we're holding airlines accountable in a way that wasn't possible before.
Exactly. Social media and online review platforms have given passengers a powerful voice, and airlines are starting to pay attention.
Okay.
They know they can't ignore negative feedback or brush off valid concerns.
So it's not just about, venting our frustrations into the void. It's actually having an impact.
It can. And as passengers become more informed and empowered, they can start to exert pressure on airlines to improve their practices and offer more competitive options. It's a classic case of supply and demand.
Right.
If passengers are willing to pay for certain amenities or services, airlines will provide them. But if passengers push back against, unfair fees or restrictive policies, airlines will have to adapt.
So it's not just about grumbling to ourselves at the airport. It's about actively using our voices and our wallets to drive change.
Precisely. And I think we're already seeing some positive signs.
Oh, yeah.
Some airlines are starting to experiment with more flexible pricing models, offering a range of options to cater to different travel needs and budgets.
Okay.
Others are focusing on improving the overall passenger experience, investing in things like better seats, upgraded entertainment systems, and more personalized service.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Some airlines are really going above and beyond to make flying less of a hassle. And that's encouraging. Maybe there's hope for a future where, we don't have to sacrifice comfort and convenience in the name of airline profits.
I believe there is.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that balance between the needs of the airlines and the expectations of passengers. And that balance can shift over time, depending on a lot of factors. But ultimately, it's up to us, the travelers, to shape the future of air travel.
Okay.
By staying informed, making conscious choices, and advocating for our own best interests, we can create a more positive and enjoyable experience for everyone.
What a great note to end on.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there, remember, the world of carry-on luggage might be changing, but you have the power to, adapt and thrive, stay informed, pack smart, and don't be afraid to, speak up for what you want. And who knows, maybe someday we'll look back on these, turbulent times as a turning point, a moment when we collectively decided to, demand better from the airlines and create a more passenger-centric future of travel.
Here's to that future.
Cheers to that. And thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration of the world around us.